Hi everyone, we are group 3.2. In this presentation, we'll introduce e-waste and its impacts. So let's get started. This is the structure of today's presentation. And firstly, we'll briefly introduce what is e-waste, and we'll discuss why e-waste is a problem. And then we'll talk about major aspects of e-waste problem, including environmental aspect and health aspect. Next, we'll discuss the impacts of e-waste problem. And finally, we'll briefly talk about the possible solutions. So let's move on to the first section. What is e-waste? Electronic waste refers to waste electrical and electronic equipment, including computers, mobile phones, washing machines, air conditioners, and televisions, and is composed of sophisticated blends of plastics, metals, and other materials.
Okay, after introduction of e-waste, let's talk about why e-waste is a problem. To find this reason of this question, let's look at some figures. Innovation is electronics meeting many demands, including this desire for people to stay connected on a global scale. As new products continue to be introduced to the market, consumers replace existing damage or out of date electronic. The resulting message of discarded electronic is becoming the world's fastest growing with the stream. These three images shows the global growth of personal computers, also the current and projected situation of e-waste in India. It can be clearly seen that as the main generator of electronic waste, personal computer increased significantly around the year 2000. And when these electronic devices were retired, a huge amount of electronic waste will created. The rapid growth of e-waste has brought many problems. Firstly, the recycling process is very difficult due to the complexity of e-waste itself, especially in some developing countries without the relevant technology and the human support, which has brought many different degrees of disaster to human health and the environment. In the following lectures, we will analyze in detail the impact of e-waste from both a human and an environmental aspect.
Okay, then the environmental part. The recycling problems for tons of e-waste. Even the most common digital device, smartphone, is made of mixed materials. With complex design products, recyclers face huge challenges for separating elements. Meanwhile, the society lacks the universal and standardized recycling method for e-waste. It is reported that around 70% of toxic chemicals come from the e-waste. Through several e-waste treatments, such as compunction, burning, and acid dissolution, the final integrants will be sent into landfills. From the report, e-waste will lose bioavailable in the process of burning. However, the harmful gas will finally release into atmosphere and damage to the environment. The detrimental residue cannot be fully degraded. The public should be aware of the final environmental benefit impact balance, as this balance is not always be positive. Then we move on to the second part. Developed countries seek the cheaper options for dealing e-waste as they choose to export into those developing countries. These countries receive almost 90% of e-waste from the world. In some developing countries, the amount of waste received exceeds their ability of dealing with. From a risk assessment conducted in Pakistan, evidence shows that the most severe environmental problem is the air pollution. Less developed countries burden all harmful impacts brought by the e-waste.
Okay, now I will introduce the health aspect. E-waste will cause health problems in humans, especially in children, because children have small bodies, less developed organs and immune systems. From this picture, we can see that if we don't get rid of e-waste properly, e-waste can damage people's DNA, causing some inborn defects in people. e-waste can also damage people, especially children's organs, like lungs, hearts, and their brains, and something somewhere else. The most important thing is if people are contaminated before they are born, they may suffer from these illnesses or physical defects for their whole lives. Okay, next. People are exposed to e-waste toxicants through 4 major pathways: skin exposure, inhalation, ingestion, and transplacental exposure. It looks there is only 4 pathways. However, as a result, it is difficult for people to avoid being exposed to e-waste. For example, even if you wear a mask in a workplace, the toxicants in e-waste can still penetrate your body through your skin. And even if you wash and cook your foods, they may still contain toxicants from e-waste. So that you cannot feel or perceive it, but it can exist in various substances and situations, and finally enter into your bodies. And finally, I will talk a real case. Agbogbloshie. Agbogbloshie dump in Accra, Ghana, known as the world's worst dump. Why? From this picture, we can see because of the hazardous working environment and toxic air pollution in there. And also it is one of the world's largest destinations for the used electronic goods. And people living and working here have many common illnesses like burns, back problems, infected wounds, respiratory problems, and so on. We cannot see that e-waste is the only reason for illnesses for some people. But based on the situation in there and based on the previous slides, e-waste has very obviously negative effects on people's health.
Okay, now I think you have a good understanding of the gravity of the e-waste problem and the adverse environmental and health aspects of the issue. When it comes to sustainability, minimizing the generation of e-waste is very difficult due to various reasons, such as rapid technological innovations and new products, declining prices of electronics, and difficulties in repairing due to complex technological designs. However, we should have a sustainable approach to tackle this issue. And as stated in the United Nations concept of human security, we should have a balance between the areas of economic security, food security, health security, and other areas such as environmental, personal, community, and political security. So we should focus on a sustainable process where it maximizes the retention of valuable components of e-waste and disposing of the hazardous components safely. According to the United Nations Sustainable Development Report 2020, as you see in the picture, so the generation of electronic waste grew by 38% from 2010 to 2019, but less than 20% of it has been recycled. So we have to move toward innovative recycling strategies while having a strong coordinated global effort for promoting recycling and ensuring safety. Further, we should promote sustainable product designs and promote innovative campaigns to promote recycling. For example, during our study, we found that several recycling programs such as Mobile Muster, Tech Collect, and B-Cycle have been introduced in Victoria in addition to the National Television and Computer Recycling Scheme. So in conclusion, we would like to reiterate that e-waste is becoming a global issue that threatens sustainability and creates serious environmental and health problems. So we recommend that the innovative e-waste management and recycling approaches should be the focus of future studies and research. So that's all for today, and thank you very much. And it's time for questions.